Dijonai Carrington, once again, more stuff just keeps coming out. She's bumping Caitlin Clark in the chest, staring Caitlin Clark down in the game, approaching her, getting in her face. Why is it every time you're on my screen, it's never a basketball play? Why is it always drama? Bumps Caitlin Clark in the chest. And Caitlin just waves her off like, are you just another peasant? Yeah, you're a cockroach to me. You're nothing. Dijonai Carrington, you're done.
There's a point where competition stops looking like competition and starts looking like fixation. And with Dijonai Carrington and Caitlin Clark, we may have officially crossed that line. Because every time these two share the floor, it feels like Carrington is watching Caitlin just a little bit more closely than everybody else. She's talking to her, bumping her, looking back at her, appealing to officials after contact, trying to get some kind of reaction.
Now you got Dijonai Carrington fouling Caitlin Clark right here. Look at this, man. So she's reaching in for the ball, fouling Caitlin Clark. We can visibly see she's going in. Caitlin has the ball all the way out here. So clearly you didn't get basketball. You got something else.
And the funniest part? Caitlin Clark barely seems interested. That's what made their latest matchup so revealing. Carrington appeared determined to turn ordinary basketball possessions into something personal, while Caitlin treated most of it like background noise. And the more Caitlin refused to engage, the more awkward the whole thing started to look. Because Carrington wasn't getting the reaction she seemed to want. She was getting ignored.
Dijonai Carrington is the only player who would get a 3 hit on them and act like she did something. Like you would, if I just showed you this clip, you would think that Dijonai Carrington was the one that hit this 3-point shot on Caitlin. Running into her chest, like this is absolutely crazy, chat. And shout out to Caitlin with class. Caitlin just waves her off like, girl, you're nothing to me. Like, stop trying. You're trying to make a clip and I'm not going to give it to you. You want to make a moment, I'm not going to give it to you.
And Caitlin may have embarrassed her more by doing that than she ever could have with trash talk. It started with one of those plays that by itself probably wouldn't mean much. Carrington reaches in while guarding Caitlin, there's contact, and the official blows the whistle. Normal basketball play, except Carrington immediately seems unhappy with the call. She approaches Caitlin, appears to gesture like Caitlin exaggerated the contact, and starts making her case. Meanwhile, Caitlin, she's smiling.
Dijonai Carrington getting weaponized by the fans in the crowd. She wasn't going to say something at first. Now she thought about it. She's like, let me go approach Caitlin Clark and do the head jerking me like she's flopping. Look at her. Look at her. And Caitlin gives her exactly what she wants. And as you can see, Caitlin Clark smiling at her while Dijonai Carrington is talking to her, and the ref, and even the ref is not trying to hear it. This black brother right here ain't even trying to hear it, man.
That's it. She isn't screaming back. She isn't getting in Carrington's face. She isn't turning it into some dramatic confrontation. She basically looks amused. And right there, you could already see the difference in how the two players were approaching the moment. Carrington seemed invested in the interaction, Caitlin seemed invested in the game. And that becomes a pattern. Later, Carrington is defending Caitlin tightly. Caitlin knocks down a shot, and there's another little moment between them. Carrington bumps into her afterward and appears to look directly at Caitlin, almost waiting to see what she's going to do.
Dijonai Carrington guarding Caitlin Clark right in her face. Bang! And how does she respond? Bumps Caitlin Clark in the chest. And Caitlin just waves her off like, are you just another peasant? Yeah, you're a cockroach to me. You're nothing. You're a nothing burger.
Caitlin's response? Basically a wave off, like, okay, whatever. And that may have been the coldest possible response. Because when somebody is trying to get under your skin, the one thing they don't want is for you to act like they don't matter. Think about it. If Caitlin gets angry, Carrington wins something. If Caitlin starts jawing, Carrington gets the moment. If they get nose to nose, now everybody is posting the clip. Everybody is talking about the rivalry.
Why is it every time you're on my screen, it's never a basketball play? Why is it always drama? Why is it always you being ghetto? Why is it you showing the characteristics of a hood rat? Like, can I please just see some class? Can I see some talent? Please, anything, show me something.
And Carrington becomes part of the Caitlin Clark conversation again. But Caitlin didn't really give her that. She just kept playing. And the body language said everything. Carrington seemed to keep checking for Caitlin. Caitlin kept moving on to the next possession. That's where the obsession angle starts becoming hard to ignore. And obviously, we're talking about competitive basketball here. Players watch each other. Players talk. Players get physical.
If you got basketball, the ball would have left Caitlin Clark's hand, it would have got, deflected or something. It would have went out the way. It would have been a loose ball. But no, Caitlin still has full control of her dribble. What she doesn't have control over is you all in her space, hand checking her, smacking her. And the referee sees it, calls the whistle, and you immediately, instead of reacting, this is how I know you're a victim.
Nobody should pretend every glance is some massive psychological event. But when you stack all of these moments together, it starts to look different. There's the reach in, there's the complaining, there's the bump, there's the staring. There are the looks back toward Caitlin after plays. There's Carrington appearing to check Caitlin's reaction even when Caitlin has already turned away. At a certain point, you start asking a very simple question. Why does Caitlin Clark seem to occupy this much of Dijonai Carrington's attention?
Dijonai Carrington once again playing victim. They're boxing each other out, and you see she's playing victim to the ref. Look, Caitlin and Dijonai going for the box out. Dijonai tells the ref she's throwing an elbow. Caitlin's throwing an elbow. Like, she did not throw an elbow. Why are you trying to play like, she wants to be a victim so bad?
Because Caitlin certainly doesn't appear to be giving the same energy back. And that imbalance is what makes it interesting. One player looks like she's trying to create a moment. The other looks like she's trying to win a basketball game. There was another sequence where Carrington and Caitlin were battling for position, and Carrington immediately appealed to the official about an elbow. Again, physical play happens. Players complain about calls all the time. But in the context of everything else happening between these two, it just added another layer. Carrington constantly seemed to be communicating something about Caitlin, to the referee, to whoever would listen. While Caitlin's answer, most of the night, seemed to be the exact same thing. Play basketball. And there's a reason that strategy is so effective. Caitlin Clark is already the center of attention everywhere she goes. Every opposing arena fills up. Every interaction gets clipped. Every hard foul becomes a debate. Every facial expression gets analyzed.
Caitlin Clark playing basketball right in your face again. Bang! Hold that down. 3 shots for you, Dijonai. Caitlin Clark sidesteps. Bang! Look at Dijonai's reaction. Go ahead and drink that juice, girl. Go ahead and drink that juice.
So if you are playing against her, there's a huge temptation to make yourself part of the story. That doesn't necessarily mean it's calculated, but there is absolutely an incentive. Get into it with Caitlin Clark, and suddenly millions of people are talking about you. Have a normal, quiet basketball game? Maybe nobody notices. And Carrington has already become one of the players most closely associated with the physical side of defending Caitlin. So every time something happens between them, people are watching. The cameras are watching. The fans are watching. Social media is waiting, which makes Caitlin refusing to participate even more noticeable. You can almost see moments where Carrington appears to glance back as though she's expecting Caitlin to respond, and Caitlin just doesn't. At one point, she's walking away while Carrington is still looking in her direction. That's the part that makes the dynamic almost funny. It's like somebody trying to start an argument with a person who has already left the room.
Caitlin Clark just walking, minding her business. Dijonai Carrington can't get enough of her. Like, look at breaking her damn neck like an owl. Who?
And eventually, the basketball itself becomes the answer. Because while all of this extra stuff is happening, Caitlin and her teammates are still making plays. Caitlin hits shots, she creates offense, she gets downhill, she keeps the possession moving, and Carrington is left reacting. That's where the humiliation comes in. Caitlin Clark may have embarrassed Carrington without really saying anything at all.
Caitlin drives, just making an absolute mockery of this girl. Behind the back pass, look at this girl. Who? She gave you a reason to look back now this time. She gave you a real reason to look back now. The other reason when y'all was going to your bench, you ain't have to look back. Caitlin said, oh, you want to look? I'll give you a reason to look back. Look at Dijonai. Looking clueless as ever. Clueless as ever. As KK finishes this layup.
Not because she screamed in her face, not because she celebrated excessively, not because she tried to embarrass her after a made basket, but because she treated Carrington's attempts to create tension like they weren't important enough to acknowledge. That can be devastating in sports. Players understand this. Trash talk works when the other person accepts the invitation. You say something, they say something, now you're battling. But what happens when you say something and the other person smiles? What happens when you bump somebody and they just turn around? What happens when you stare and they don't even look back? Suddenly, you're the only person participating. And now it doesn't look intimidating. It looks desperate. That's why this matchup felt different. Carrington wasn't intimidating Caitlin Clark. If anything, Caitlin looked completely comfortable. She seemed almost entertained by it. And every time she refused to react, the power dynamic shifted a little bit more. Carrington wanted Caitlin's attention. Caitlin made her earn it through basketball. That's exactly how it should be. Want Caitlin to notice you? Stop looking for a confrontation. Get a stop. Hit a shot. Win the game. Make yourself impossible to ignore because of what you do between the whistles. Because that's the irony here. Carrington is a talented basketball player. She doesn't need all the extra stuff to be relevant, but when so much of the conversation surrounding her becomes about Caitlin Clark, what happened with Caitlin, what she said about Caitlin, what she did after a play involving Caitlin, the basketball starts disappearing underneath the drama. And Caitlin seems to understand that. She's learning that she doesn't have to answer every challenge. She doesn't have to react every time somebody gets physical. She doesn't have to win the argument. She just has to win the possession. And that may be the biggest difference between Caitlin Clark now and the version of Caitlin that first entered the league. Early on, everybody wanted to test her. Everybody wanted to see how she would respond to the physicality. People bumped her, talked to her, got in her space, and every one of those incidents became a national conversation. But now, she looks increasingly comfortable letting the other player be the one who looks emotional. That's growth. And Carrington gave us a perfect example. She kept appearing to look for Caitlin. Caitlin kept looking toward the basket. She kept appearing to want a reaction. Caitlin kept giving her nothing. And then Caitlin and her team delivered the one response that actually matters, the scoreboard. That's what makes the whole situation so brutal for Carrington. If your goal is to bother Caitlin Clark and she smiles at you, waves you off, keeps playing, and then your team loses anyway, what exactly did you accomplish? You didn't intimidate her. You didn't knock her out of rhythm. You didn't drag her into a confrontation. You just gave everybody another collection of clips showing you focused on Caitlin Clark. That's why this is starting to become embarrassing. Not because Carrington competes hard, she should. Not because she gets physical. Basketball is physical. It's because the attention appears so one-sided. Caitlin doesn't look consumed with Carrington. Carrington repeatedly looks consumed with Caitlin. And maybe that's the lesson for everybody trying to turn Caitlin Clark into their personal rivalry. Caitlin doesn't need the rivalry. She already has the attention. She already has the cameras. She already has the crowd. If you want to make the story about you, then you have to do it on the basketball court. And trying to bait Caitlin into giving you a viral moment might actually accomplish the exact opposite. Because nothing makes somebody look less important than watching them desperately try to get the attention of someone who refuses to give it to them. And that's exactly what this looked like. Carrington kept pushing. Caitlin kept playing. Carrington kept looking. Caitlin kept walking. Carrington appeared to want a moment. Caitlin gave her a wave. And in the end, Caitlin may have said more with that reaction than she ever could have said with words. You're not getting under my skin. You're not changing how I play. And I'm not giving you the moment you came looking for. And at some point, Dijonai Carrington may need to realize something. If you want Caitlin Clark's attention that badly, make her notice you with basketball. But I want to know what you think. Is Carrington just playing hard and competing? Or is this starting to look like she's way too focused on Caitlin Clark? Drop your take in the comments. And if you enjoyed this breakdown, hit the like button, subscribe to Courtside Leaks, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next one. We've got plenty more Caitlin Clark and WNBA drama coming your way.